1945. The war was finally over. Cities were liberated, and people rejoiced in the streets. But not everyone was celebrating. For some, the end of the war meant the beginning of their worst nightmare. Thousands of women, accused of collaborating with the enemy, were dragged into the streets. Their heads were shaved. They were paraded in public, insulted, beaten. Some never recovered. But were they really traitors? Or were they just convenient scapegoats? The women shamed. After World War II, betrayal or justice? When the Nazis occupied France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and other parts of Europe, life changed drastically. Men were sent to war, leaving many women alone to survive as best they could. Some fought in the resistance. Some worked hard to protect their families. And some, whether out of necessity, fear, or even love, formed relationships with German soldiers. It wasn't always about betrayal. Some women sought protection, some needed food, and others genuinely fell in love. But when the war ended, none of that mattered. In the aftermath of the war, the streets became the setting for a different kind of battle, one of revenge, rather than justice. In France, nearly 20,000 women were accused of collaboration and publicly humiliated. Their heads were shaved as a mark of disgrace. They were stripped, beaten, and sometimes even killed. Some were forced to march through towns, covered in tar, with swastikas painted on their bodies. But here's what's striking. Most actual war criminals and Nazi sympathizers, businessmen, politicians, and industrialists never faced this kind of treatment. Instead, the anger of the people fell on women, many of whom had never actively helped the Nazis, except through personal relationships. And yet, not all women chose this path. While some women were accused of collaboration, others risked everything to fight. Women like Lucie Aubrac, Nancy Wake, and André de Jong joined the resistance. They smuggled weapons, spied on German movements, and even led military operations. Some were captured, tortured, or executed, but they never gave in. They are remembered as heroes. But does the fact that some women resisted mean others deserved the brutal punishment they received? The public humiliations were not just a spontaneous act of revenge. Newspapers printed photos of shaved women, fueling the shame. Radio broadcasts called for a cleansing of society. It was a way to prove that the country had fought back against the enemy by punishing those who could not fight back. Some of these women had no trial, no chance to defend themselves. Their crime? Being with a German. Meanwhile, some of the richest and most powerful men who profited from Nazi rule walked free. Today, historians look back at these events with a more critical eye. Some still argue that those who truly collaborated with the enemy deserved punishment. But was public humiliation real justice? Others suggest that many of these women were simply easy targets, punished because true accountability was too difficult. In the end, history remembers both types of women. Those who fought bravely against the enemy, and those who faced the anger of their own people when the war was over. But what do you think? Were these women traitors, or were they victims of a chaotic and vengeful time? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.
She'll let you fuck her for a chocolate bar.
That's not true.